Welcome back to another edition of the Course Creation Incubator. I'm your host, Gina Onativia, here to get you stoked about your course creation and your marketing, and to help you build the business of your dreams, and hopefully help you embrace your entrepreneurship just a little bit more. And speaking of entrepreneurship, I've got the queen of entrepreneurs on today, Hilary DeCesare. And Hilary and I go way back when she was a done-for-you client, and I helped her build out a relationship program. And every time we met, every single week, I was a better person for it because she taught me something new, or she got me fired up about being an entrepreneur, being a course creator, being a coach. And I've had a lot of questions lately about launching a workshop and launching a course, and maybe it's not going exactly what you thought. Or maybe you're afraid to put yourself out there because of what might happen. And I thought Hilary is the perfect person to bring on to address this question because she's always busting through those fears. She's always adapting and pivoting inside of her own business. You're going to hear her talk about how you can break through those fears, focus on the hot stuff, and what to do if you have a lot of big ideas. And you're going to hear us talk about the origins of my Postit Exercise process and how it actually started with Hilary and her business partner back in the day. So we're going to take a trip down memory lane, and then Hilary's going to walk through some great pieces to help you start or help you relaunch and really get your course and business going. By the way, if you are inspired by this episode and you want to get your course done, I want you working with me as part of the 6-week accelerator. That's right. We're going to get your program done in 6 weeks. I'm going to hold your hand through the entire process. It's you, me, and a very small group of your course creation peers. Save your spot now. CourseCreationBoutique.com/6 weeks. I'll put it in the show notes as well. All right, let's get to Hilary. Hilary, I have been wanting you on the podcast forever. So excited to have you here today. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Gina, I mean, how good is this going to be?
So good.
So good, girl. So good.
So way back in the day, one of the things that struck me when we first started working together is your sense of vision. You knew where you wanted to go. And for everyone listening, where does that confidence and focus come from?
Okay, so first off, when I first met you, I was coming out of high tech. I was in the high tech world, Silicon Valley, raising money for my companies, helping entrepreneurs build their visions. And I knew I wanted to create something around this whole concept of relaunch. And you can talk about relaunch relationships, relaunch, love, relaunch business, relaunch yourself, a lot. And there was this, if you know a lot about visionary, the visionaries versus the, these what are they called? The instigator. What is it?
Oh, the integrators or the
integrators. Yes. Yes. I'm like,
integrators are good too.
That's not it. But when you start to think about that, it was, all right, I had a lot of big ideas, and you can have big ideas, but you can't implement all of them. Right. And so all of a sudden I realized, okay, how do I get from where I want to be, right? From now to there. I want to go there. I see it. I've got it in my mind. There's a whole lot of different paths I can take, but which one is the best? And at some point you got to roll the dice. You got to say, I'm picking this one. I'm picking this lane. I'm not going to try to be on that 3 to 4 lane highway doing it all, because you are either a solopreneur, you are, you have one other person, maybe you have, a VA, and you got to focus. And so for me, I have always, I think one of my like I call it the G zone, your genius zone, your great zone. One of my G zones is finding great people and having them help me in areas where I don't have that experience. I don't have that expertise. And what my whole thing is how do I get from A to B as fast as possible and spending as little of my time on distractions and as little of the money on things that are going to be throwaways.
I love that. And I think you're really good about that genius zone too. And I'm going to start using that.
The
And
G zone, baby. That's
G zone, I like it.
that is what it's all about.
So when you have lots of big ideas, how do you know? I just did a podcast about a priority course. This is a few weeks ago. How do you know it's the hot one, Hilary? How do you know it's the priority?
Oh, I love it. Because this is everyone out there, this is a leading question because I actually did not have the right first course. It was something I had a co-founder at that time who is an amazing gal,
Fabulous gal. Yeah,
I left my kind of my lane of business of where I had really put all of my years of my focus and decided let's start with Relaunch Relationships. And I hadn't really built out anything. And drum roll, this is where Gina was, this like girl on that white horse coming in saying, okay, I gotcha. But we had to pick something. And my co-founder at the time was a woman that loved, this whole concept of relationship. I love love. I had just gotten remarried after divorce. I had relaunched myself. So we picked that lane. And Gina, I can still remember you saying to me, because I said, well, I've got this and I got that. And you were very much like, hey, you can do that. And you can be good at all these different areas, but where are you going to be great? And you got to start in one place. And as I said, it's okay to start in a place that is something that perhaps it's not like the big one, right?
right.
It's actually what you did for me by saying, okay, great. Let's start with the relationship course and relaunch love. And let's start there. And then we'll see what happens. And what happened was I realized after I did the relationship course that where I really needed to go was the business, and that a byproduct of the business is the relationship. So we still have the relationship course, we still have that, but our primary lane that we really work on and in is that business. But going back to that first course, it was helping me coming from a tech background, Silicon Valley. It was helping me understand what is this digital space.
Right.
It's not about like building software and building this company, it's at all. And Gina, you literally had a process that still to this day I use whenever I think about building out my courses.
Okay, so Hilary is talking about the Postit exercise, which we were
just
reminiscing. And Hilary's like, do you still do that process? I'm like, it's the Postit exercise process. Like you were there for the genesis of it. And I remember we had that big white wall. I had rented my friend's salon, or she offered it to me.
Great place. We used every
inch of that. And you were a great example of having way too much content in a great way, right? Quality problem, because like you said, you brought business to the table, you brought relationships to the table, career to the table. Like you could have talked about anything, and just being able to drill down and go for it is what needed to happen, right? You needed to make a decision and drive forward, which you did.
You know what you did during that Postit exercise is that you were great, because I did have a ton in my head, and you didn't stop the process. You said, okay, just keep talking, keep putting it out there, and every single time I had a concept or an idea, you'd write it down.
Right.
You try to you put it in buckets and these categories, and then going over it the second time and moving things around. And all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but after doing this for a short bit of time, it really wasn't that long. You looked at me and said, all right, I think we have the outline of your course. And I remember looking at my co-founder and I said, I think we've got it. Like, this is what we need to focus on first.
Yeah. And then honoring the stuff that you don't use yet, right? It's still to come. It's 2.0, it's 3.0. I'm sure you've used that in all your different programs that you have now, all that content.
Tell you, the foundation of the business came from what we moved out, but we put, over, I think it was the parking lot. Like, we're just going to park
Yes, the parking lot, right.
Park those over there. And we did that. And yes, it ended up being truly, I kept thinking about it. When you keep thinking about something, you're like, oh, that business course, that's what really lights me up. But the greatest part is that, they always, and I think you were the first person who said this, get a course out there.
Yeah.
You can overthink this to the point that you don't do anything.
Right.
And that's not what it's about. In fact, people don't want perfection. They don't. They want that, like, okay, what, I couldn't remember what the name integrator meant. I mean, that's what it's about. It's about being able to put out there something, learn from it, be able to modify. And the way you had us create it, it was in specific modules. They were like different. So as it evolved, we didn't have to go back and erase the whole course and start over. We just took one part of it, tweaked it, modified it as we grew.
Yeah. And another, talking about not being perfect, another story I love telling is you recorded some raw videos. So do you remember this, where you were filmed it very nicely? It was beautiful. And then you recorded some off the cuffs with your phone, right? Because you're like, we need to add this to the course. They need to know they've just done a great job, or we need to celebrate them. And then I tell everyone to do that, because you can film your core course and then emotions are going to bubble to the surface that you didn't even know about, or somebody's going to struggle with an exercise, right? Why not just record those raw and real responses?
Completely. And that adds the realness to the course specifically. I mean, I can't even tell you how much I've done that in, what I've created now. And the thing is that once you have that foundation, and once you've gone through the process and you really have a sense of knowing how to create an actual course. I mean, after we worked with you, and I think I said to you, I said, whatever you're selling, I want. I mean, it was like, it was all good. You're like, I don't even have this yet. I'll take it. Because your way of getting out that clutter and putting it down so that things are very logical, so that it makes sense, allows you to have this repeatable process in the future, which again, my business morphed. As I'm sure everyone listening, it will. What you think you're going to, hang your hat on, it's going to change.
Totally.
Times change. I mean,
your business evolves.
Global changes. Yeah, everything. And so I look at what's happened now, and originally with the relaunch, this concept of relaunching, I remember sitting there, and the three of us were sitting there, and I was defending the name Relaunch, because at that point, is it too business? Are people going to really understand relaunch? Is it a word that resonates with women? And I'm laughing because I was so just set in my ways that relaunch is the name. Relaunch, it has to be like, it's all about that. And because of that, it's given me, the relaunch is the brand.
It's the brand, which you knew from the get-go.
Totally. And I had that vision.
You had that vision.
I did know. So when I say that it morphs and changes, my goal has never wavered from wanting to, own the midlife space, wanting to help people relaunch in, whatever they consider to be their own lifestyle of success. And it could be in their business, which is a direct reflection of who they are on the inside. It has to do a lot with, trying to get through all of that. It has a lot to do with, like, how are your relationships? Because if your relationships are failing, then it's going to impact your business. So what you did, it's like a figure eight. It's like this ever loop that keeps going through all of these. And so I many times I sit back and I think, okay, so as I'm creating yet another course right now for a book that I have coming out in May. And I'm doing my steps. I'm putting the foundation out there. And another comment that you that resonates in my mind is, always that less is more. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
That could actually be an entirely different course. Just strip it back, because we want to impress our audience that we know so much. So we're like, it's like the let me just vomit all over my content. Just blah, I'm going to give you everything I have. And it's too much. As you said, it was way too much for somebody to comprehend.
Yeah.
And I remember script
Completely.
writing. Oh my gosh, do you remember that?
Oh,
That was
I'll never forget.
oh, I gave her like 10 to 20 pages of these scripts. She's like, oh, wow, this is really good, but can we just
We're going to take it
tighten
down
up?
to more like 4 pages.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think there was
Oh,
even one that you did one page because you were like, this is really great, but just what's the story and what are the steps, and can we just like tighten this up a bit? And it worked
it
because
worked. Yeah, it worked. Give the people exactly what they need. I want to talk about the evolution and these different offers that you're making, different invitations you're making today. Like you've got the membership, right? You've got different retreats. Like, how did you get here?
so I think that, with clarity, you have to have a plan and you have to have accountability.
Okay.
And I have always practiced what I preach in terms of really, really, really getting clear. And when you're starting out, or when you're kind of in that place where you're feeling like I'm stuck with where I am. I don't have that burning sense, like, that spark in my belly, that, the fire that we talk about. It's not there. It's really a point at that point of saying, okay, how do we get back to that place where you can be creative? You could ignite yourself again.
Right.
And I realized that when I was just starting out, I had the vision, and it was almost like I wanted to know where I wanted to be in 10 years, 5 years, 3 years. And then I go back to the 1 year. And I always start with the furthest and kind of like brainstorming back. And there's a big difference between vision and mission. And people kind of put those two together quite a bit. And it's not. The vision is where you really ultimately want to see your company. The mission is how you're going to do it daily. How are you going to get there?
Okay,
How are you going
great.
to empower and inspire others to want to hear what you have to say? And so when I started to do that, and I call them scazy goals, these scary and crazy goals. I made up a lot of my own words when my kids were little, that my poor children, even today, they'll say a word and they're like, Mom, that word doesn't even exist. I said, but it does
It
for
does.
us.
Sure does.
It does.
Yeah.
And so what I really want people to be thinking is, what is your scazy goal? What is that scary and crazy that if you actually had that happen, you'd be like, oh my gosh, it's magic. It's like, how did this really take place? I knew where I wanted to go. And because of you, actually, I had to not, I couldn't, I was a small startup again.
Right.
Or, you grow into the bigger, you got to start, you got to have those 2K months, then the 5K, then the 10K, then you're getting into the 50, then the 100.
Right.
I mean, you got to build up. And, I always like to say that, what somebody else's, end is the last chapter in their book is not your beginning. It's not your second chapter, your third. It's theirs. That's what they've got. They don't even know their stories that has gotten them to that point.
So
So
great.
I really wanted to make sure that I could see the vision. And it did mean that there was a point where my partner and I went our separate directions, and very amicable. I think she's absolutely amazing. She's doing incredible things in the relationship space. But I really wanted to take it where I knew the company could go, with having you first and foremost as an entrepreneur, a business owner, a woman in corporate that has an entrepreneurial spirit, and build you into that higher self, that best self of you. And so it started with like, hey, let's start with one course, just one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get it right. Let's figure it out. And then we can build onto that. And so we now have a retreat that's happening here, and so excited about that. they're actually going to be, it's going to be in person. It's going to be wonderful. And then we have a book coming out, I mentioned, and that is going to have a course specifically for that. And there was this concept that some women were not quite ready to jump all the way into a business program. And our
Okay.
business program is 6 months. And there's a
Yeah.
reason I base it a lot around, neuroscience and getting at what's really holding you back. And, as much as we'd like to say, like, you can do things in 21 days, in order to really break down walls and get out of the, hell in the hallway, it takes time. And so I have this program. It's, incredible, but I wanted to give people the opportunity to start their journeys with small master classes, with small wins, right? That don't take 6 months, that could take 10 minutes. And so creating the Relaunch Circle, which is the membership group, it again, each and every one had that framework that we went through. And I just built off of that. I built off of like, hey, what's the hook? What's the story? What's the, what's my research? The backup. Me, I love that part of it too.
Oh
I
yeah.
kind of leveraging all areas of the brain. And then being able to have that really small one step to have momentum, to be able to create possibilities. Because once you do that, then you can take the next step. And then there's another one, there's another small video that you can watch. And, we created even, I don't even know if you know this, we ended up doing a 7-day how to get unstuck challenge.
No, I
And
didn't know
it's
that.
10 minutes a day. It's actually not, it's like 5 minutes a day, really,
That's
really
great.
short. And it helps people just begin to see what changes can happen within them, so that you don't have to be thinking about that 6 month journey. It could start and you can work your way through it. And sure, there's people that are like, nope, I don't want to do that. I want to go straight to one-on-one coaching.
Right.
Hey, that's great too.
Yeah.
You and I know that. In fact, I think we did a VIP day as well.
Yeah.
It really is up to you. How quickly do you want to get the results? And I know you do this too,
Mm-hmm.
that you give people where they are, you let them in where they are.
Yeah.
And then the ascension is getting them to the next level, so that they can reach their level again of that success.
That's great. And Hilary, I know I'm a big advocate for starting small. You mentioned that earlier in the podcast. Like, you wouldn't go to market with that 6-month business course today, right? Like, so you would start with the little stuff and build. Do you think that's go
Yeah,
ahead?
just what I did with you.
Yeah.
You start, and now I would even go even smaller. I
Love
would
that.
even, these bite size um, challenges that people are doing, just to
Yep.
give a little sense of what's your style. And remember, there's over 7 billion people on this planet. And the more you can, as you've taught me so, eloquently over the years, the more you can niche down, the more you can try it, see. And you haven't like created this massive course that, hey, it's fabulous. It's everything that you love, but it's nobody else wants it. Right. That's the worst. So in order to do that and be successful, you really want to put something out there, let your clients, let your new, if you're just starting out, just start to build, and, one a day, have somebody take it, then two, then three.
Yeah.
And then there's always that, okay, now I know more about you. And another thing that you had us do was always that personal story, always the
Yes.
personal story. How are you tying this together? It's not just context or content. It's really like fleshing it out so that there is that, now I get it. I understand what she's trying to say,
Yeah.
versus assuming. I think that that's like, that's the one word when I, talk to people, I'm like, stop assuming. Don't assume anything,
Yeah.
because you don't know what anyone else has going on in their mind.
Yeah, and I love you brought up so many great stories, your courses and what you put out there, right? You are a role model. You are women look up to. You're inspirational, you're aspirational. So of course they want to hear these stories from you and these anecdotes.
Well, I've had a tremendous amount of relaunches. And I'm going through yet even more right now. It's the relaunch roller coaster, but when you learn, just like you learn the content creation methodology that you teach, I do the same with how to get through a relaunch and have the transition actually end up being a positive transformation.
Yeah.
And you can do that with each and every. I've had people literally say, I do not even know how you're standing. Like, how can you continue to do what you're doing when this is happening? This is happening. And I don't think of it like that anymore. I look at it like, oh, I'm in step number 2
Hmm.
of the relaunch effect and this method. And I now can take it, and I know what's coming, and I know that there's going to be a rebranding and a realignment. And, and there is always that point of a restart.
Yeah.
And that's the relaunch. And that's when you're like, okay, I got this.
Love it. Okay, before we wrap up, I was looking at your IG the other day, and you have a graphic on there. 40 is extremely young. Some women launch into new dreams at 50. So, what do you say to women who say, I'm too old to create a course or start a business? Or maybe not too old, moms, I'm too busy right now to get this course going, because I know that's a restraint for many people listening right now. Like, what do you say to them, Hilary?
Ooh, okay. So first off, again, we are in this world of not a new normal, but a new different.
Hmm.
And there is something that is being coined the great resignation. More women are getting out of their corporate worlds, getting into what is truly at their heart, at their why. And I call it the why wizard. When you start asking why, it's like, you go back to your childhood, right? And it's like,
Yes.
and here's the thing, when you start to think about where you are right now in your life, and if there is that divine discontent within you, you're like, God, I know there's something more here. I know that I am not supposed to just be doing whatever you're doing, that job. And you want to try to think about not just income, but impact. This is where you can start to say, and I work with hundreds to thousands of people that are literally relaunching into new hobbies, new businesses, and even taking businesses that have kind of been, yeah, it's a 6-figure business and we're doing okay, but then taking it to the next level. And people in their, midlife, just so everyone knows right now, midlife is anywhere for women from 78 to about 83. That's like how long you're going to be living your
Expectancy.
life.
Yeah.
So divide that, and all of a sudden you're looking at about 37 to 42 is considered midlife. And you're like, what? So, so the mid zone, as we call it, is stretching a lot longer. And so when people come to me and say, am I too old? Is this too late to be doing this? Those are all limiting beliefs. And I call them your bugs, your beliefs underground surfacing, your bugs. And that will continue to hold you back until you exterminate your bugs. Think of it like Ghostbusters. And where we have the program, and you know how much I love my programs and everything.
Yes.
It's called the Belief Blaster.
Okay.
And I take people through 5 steps to get rid of your bugs. And here's the thing, if you are one of those right now, putting limitations on yourself and saying, I'm too old, it's like, I've already done that. That ship sailed, or I'm going to do that when my kids are out of the house.
Right.
My kids are in
Old
high school.
enough.
My kids are like, yeah, then I'll do it.
Yeah.
I push back and I say, why not start now setting up the foundation for success? Because what if instead of waiting, you could have that now, and you could be that role model for your kids, for your family, and impact them and where they're going, and see their mom or your sister or really benefit from what you're doing. And every single person out there has a course within them. Every single person.
So true.
And it's about, what are you going to do? I say, make 2022 the year of you. What are you going to do to get that out? Again, it doesn't have to be, you're not boiling the ocean. Just like boil that. I have my cup of tea right here. Just, 1 cup of water to get that tea. And that's where you can make an impact.
So good, Hilary. So good. I keep you here all day. I know you've got a party to get to. Quickly tell us, where can we learn more about you, or where do we get more amazing content?
Well, first and foremost, you mentioned Instagram. So the Relaunch Co.
Okay.
Check us out. And then you can also go to our website, the Relaunch Co. And then I am so excited to say I also have a podcast, and it is called The Silver Lined Relaunch. And we're about to rebrand, one of those steps that I mentioned, because we are always, ladies and gents, we are always rebranding ourselves. And that's what growth is all about. And that is going to be the Relaunch podcast.
Amazing. Okay. Please check out Hilary in all the above. And thank you again. I know you're a busy lady. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on.
Gina, I loved it. I love you. I love everything that you're teaching out there. And for those that are on the fence right now, you got to start somewhere, and you just want to start with somebody who knows how to get it done and will have the right results for you.
What did you think of Hilary? I mean, so much good stuff there, right? I wrote down so many notes. The idea of niching down and then going for it, or breaking through those limiting beliefs to get what you really want, I think really resonates. I hope you'll check her out at Relaunch Co. Send me a DM what you thought about this episode, because I'm pretty fired up right now and I'm going to go work on my business. Join me next week, because we're going to talk about something that can really move the needle in your business, and that's hiring support, even a little bit. Baby steps, few hours a week, to help you get your course done, to help you market it, maybe get your consistent content out there. Whatever it looks like, I'm going to help you with that next week. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss one episode. And until next week, go create, be you and be brilliant, and get it done.